When billionaire heiress Victoria hired me to plan her dream wedding, I thought it was just another high-end job. But when her fiancé Marcus whispered those 3 words while I adjusted his boutonniere, my world shattered. Because 5 years ago he was mine. And he left without explanation. If you're ready for a story about secrets, betrayal, and the most expensive revenge ever served, smash that like button and buckle up. Trust me, you won't see this ending coming. My phone rang on a Tuesday morning while I was elbow-deep in tool samples for another client's wedding. The voice on the other end was crisp, demanding, with the kind of tone that screamed money and zero patience for anything less than perfection. Emma Rodriguez? This is Victoria Ashworth. I need a wedding planner and I need the best. My assistant tells me that's you. There was no pleasantries, no small talk. Just straight to business. Money is no object. I want perfection and I want it fast. My wedding is in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Most brides plan for a year, sometimes 2. But when someone mentions unlimited budget, you don't ask questions about timelines. You say yes and figure out the impossible later. My small wedding planning business had been struggling, and this could be the break I'd been praying for. I'd be honored to work with you, Miss Ashworth, I managed, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. Professional. Always professional. Good. We'll meet tomorrow at my office. Bring your portfolio. Oh, and Emma. Her voice softened just slightly, in a way that should have been a warning. The groom's name is Marcus Sterling. I'm sure you'll find him charming. Something cold settled in my stomach at that name. Marcus Sterling. It couldn't be. There were probably thousands of Marcus Sterlings in the world, right? But my hands were shaking as I hung up the phone, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my past was about to collide with my present in the most devastating way possible. Victoria Ashworth's office was everything you'd expect from old money. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and windows that overlooked half of Manhattan. But it was Victoria herself who commanded the room. Tall, blonde, with the kind of beauty that came from good genes and better plastic surgeons. She moved like she owned the world, because in many ways she did. Emma, so glad you could make it. Her smile was perfect and completely empty. I've heard wonderful things about your work. Small scale, of course, but I believe in giving people opportunities to rise to the occasion. The condescension dripped from every word. But I needed this job. I spread my portfolio across her massive desk, showing her photos of the weddings I'd planned, beautiful ceremonies in gardens and small chapels, intimate celebrations that meant everything to the couples involved. Lovely, she said, barely glancing at the photos. But I'm thinking bigger. Much bigger. 500 guests, international flowers, a dress that costs more than most people's houses. She pulled out her phone and swiped to a photo. And of course, there's my fiancé. The world stopped. Just completely stopped. Because staring back at me from that phone screen was a face I'd tried to forget for 5 years. Older now, more refined in an expensive suit, but unmistakably him. Marcus. My Marcus. The man who'd promised me forever and then disappeared like smoke. His name is Marcus Sterling, Victoria continued, watching my face carefully. Too carefully. He's quite successful now. Inherited his father's business empire a few years ago. Billions, you know how it is. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. My hands were gripping the edge of her desk so hard my knuckles were white. And Victoria was looking at me with something that might have been amusement. Is there a problem, Emma? No, I whispered, then cleared my throat and tried again. No problem at all. He looks like a wonderful man. Oh, he is. We're perfect together. A match made in heaven, you might say. Her smile was razor sharp now. So will you take the job? I should have said no. Should have grabbed my portfolio and run out of that office as fast as my legs could carry me. But I couldn't, because seeing his face again, even in a photo, brought back every feeling I'd buried. The love, the pain, the questions that had haunted me for years. Why did he leave? Why wasn't I enough? Yes, I heard myself say, I'll take the job. Driving home from that meeting, I couldn't stop my mind from racing back to 5 years ago. Marcus and I had met in college. He was studying business. I was getting my degree in hospitality management. We were both broke students then, sharing ramen noodles and dreams about our future. He used to tell me he'd marry me someday. We'd plan our own wedding in my tiny dorm room, him spinning me around while we laughed about having a ceremony in his family's backyard. Simple, he'd say. Just us and the people we love. For 3 years, we were inseparable. He was my best friend, my lover, my entire world. We talked about everything: our careers, our families, the house we'd buy together, the kids we'd have. I thought I knew him better than anyone. Then graduation came. The questions ate away at me for months, then years. I threw myself into work, building my wedding planning business from nothing, helping other people find their happy endings while mine remained a mystery. And now here he was, about to marry another woman, a billionaire heiress who could give him everything I never could. The cruel irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 5 years helping other couples say I do. And now I was going to plan the wedding of the man who'd broken my heart. But maybe this was exactly what I needed. Maybe seeing him marry someone else would finally give me the closure I'd been searching for. Maybe I could finally move on. At least, that's what I told myself as I sat in my car outside Victoria's building, tears streaming down my face, wondering how I was going to survive the next 6 weeks without falling apart completely. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I'd convinced myself I could handle this professionally. It was just another job, just another wedding. The fact that the groom was my ex-boyfriend was irrelevant. I was stronger now, more successful. I could do this. That confidence lasted exactly 3 days, until our first vendor meeting at the florist. I was discussing centerpiece options with Victoria when the door chimed, and I heard a voice that made my heart stop all over again. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was insane. I turned around slowly and there he was. Not a photo this time, but flesh and blood Marcus, looking impossibly handsome in a navy suit that probably cost more than my car. Our eyes met across the room, and I watched the color drain from his face. Marcus, darling, Victoria purred, sliding her arm possessively through his. This is Emma Rodriguez, our wedding planner. Emma, my fiancé. Nice to meet you, I managed, extending my hand like we were strangers. His fingers brushed mine for just a second, and I felt that familiar electricity that time hadn't dimmed. Likewise, he said quietly, his voice strained. Victoria watched this exchange with sharp eyes, her grip on Marcus's arm tightening. Emma has such wonderful ideas for our special day. Don't you, Emma? After that meeting, I went home and did what any rational person would do. I stalked him online for hours. What I found explained everything and nothing at the same time. Marcus Sterling, heir to Sterling Industries, net worth approximately $8 billion. But here's the thing that made my blood run cold. His father had died in a car accident just 4 days after Marcus left me. 4 days. Which meant when he walked away from me, from us, his world was already falling apart. I scrolled through article after article about the Sterling family empire. Oil, real estate, technology, they had their fingers in everything. Old money, serious power, the kind of family where image was everything and love was a luxury they couldn't afford. Then I found the timeline that shattered my heart all over again. His father's death, Marcus inheriting everything, and just 2 months later, his engagement announcement to Victoria Ashworth. Two powerful families joining forces, creating an unstoppable business dynasty. The worst part came during a cake tasting the following week. Victoria was being her usual demanding self, rejecting perfectly beautiful designs because they weren't unique enough, when she casually dropped a bomb that changed everything. "You know, Marcus had quite the little romance in college," she said, cutting into a sample with surgical precision. "Some scholarship girl, I believe. Cute in a simple way." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Of course, his family had to intervene. These things happen when young men don't understand their responsibilities. She smiled at me sweetly. Sometimes you have to help people see that their choices affect more than just themselves. The girl was smart enough to stay away once she understood the situation. The room spun around me. Victoria knew. She knew exactly who I was, what Marcus and I had meant to each other. This wasn't coincidence. This was calculated, deliberate torture. She'd hired me specifically to twist the knife, to make sure I understood that she'd won and I'd lost. But the worst part was realizing that Marcus hadn't just left me. He'd been forced to leave me. His family had threatened me, my future, probably my safety, and he'd walked away to protect me. All these years I'd blamed him for abandoning me. But he'd sacrificed his own happiness to keep me safe. And now I was planning his wedding to the woman who'd orchestrated it all. The wedding day arrived faster than I wanted it to. I'd thrown myself into the preparations, making sure every detail was flawless. Not for Victoria, but because perfection was the only thing keeping me sane. The venue was breathtaking, the flowers were art, and everything was exactly as the bride had demanded. I was in the groom's preparation room, making final adjustments to the boutonnieres, when Marcus walked in alone. My hands trembled as I reached for the delicate white rose that would complete his look. "Let me help you with that," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I approached him. He stood perfectly still as I pinned the flower to his lapel, but I could feel the tension radiating from his body. We were so close I could smell his cologne. The same one he'd worn in college, and it took everything in me not to break down. "Emma," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I miss you." Those 3 words nearly destroyed me. I looked up into his eyes, those same green eyes that had promised me forever, and saw 5 years of pain staring back at me. "I never wanted to leave you," he continued urgently. "They threatened your scholarship, your future, your family's business. My father said they'd destroy everything you cared about if I didn't walk away. I had to protect you." Tears I'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled over. "Marcus, I've regretted it every single day. I love you, Emma. I never stopped loving you." How touching. We sprang apart as Victoria appeared in the doorway, still in her robe, her face a mask of cold satisfaction. She'd been listening. Of course she'd been listening. "Did you really think I didn't plan this moment?" She laughed, stepping into the room like a predator cornering its prey. "Emma, darling, you've played your part beautifully. The heartbroken ex-girlfriend, hired to plan the wedding of her lost love. It's almost poetic." "Victoria, what are you talking about?" Marcus demanded, but I already knew. "I hired her specifically because of who she is to you," Victoria continued, her eyes glittering with malice. "I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to remember exactly what you gave up for duty and money. And I wanted her to watch you marry me, knowing she could never have you." The room felt like it was closing in on me. "You're sick," I whispered. "I'm practical. Marcus married me for my family's connections. I married him for his fortune. But I refuse to have a husband who pines for some nobody from his past. So I eliminated the competition by making sure you both knew exactly where you stand." Marcus stepped toward me, desperation in his eyes. Emma, we can leave. Right now. We can walk away from all of this. My heart screamed yes, but my mind knew better. And go where? She'll destroy us both. I don't care anymore. I can't marry her knowing what I know now. I can't live this lie. Victoria's laugh was sharp as glass. You'll do exactly what you're supposed to do, Marcus. Because if you don't, I'll make sure Emma's little business disappears overnight. I'll ruin her reputation, her credit, her life. She'll never work in this industry again. The wedding was starting in 2 hours. 2 hours to decide between love and survival, between following my heart and protecting my future. As I looked between Marcus and Victoria, I realized something had shifted inside me. I was done being a victim in their twisted game. It was time to play by my own rules. You're right, Victoria, I said, my voice suddenly calm. I know exactly where I stand. And you're absolutely right that this wedding needs to be perfect. Victoria's smile faltered slightly at my tone, but she recovered quickly. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. Oh, we do. Marcus, you should get ready. Your bride needs time to prepare. I looked at him meaningfully. Trust me. After they left, I had exactly 90 minutes to execute a plan that had been forming in my mind since Victoria's revelation. See, the thing about being a wedding planner is that you know every vendor, every timeline, every potential point of failure. And when you've planned a wedding this elaborate, you know exactly how to make it all fall apart. I started with a phone call to my contact at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, a bride whose wedding I'd planned last year. Sarah, remember how you said you owed me a favor? The ceremony began exactly on schedule. Victoria looked stunning in her custom Vera Wang gown, well, what she thought was her custom gown. The real dress was safely locked in my car, replaced with a nearly identical knockoff that would photograph beautifully until someone looked closely. As the guests settled into their seats, I watched the first domino fall. The catering staff, who I'd personally briefed about the special dietary requests, began serving champagne with a little extra ingredient, truth serum, also known as alcohol on empty stomachs, to a crowd that rarely drank before noon. Victoria's uncle started talking loudly about their family's creative accounting practices. Her father began bragging about bribes and offshore accounts. Within 20 minutes, half the wedding guests were inadvertently confessing to federal crimes, while my friend Sarah and her team, disguised as wedding photographers, recorded every word. But the real masterpiece was Victoria herself. As she walked down the aisle, the stress of keeping her family quiet, combined with the tight corset I'd secretly had the seamstress adjust that morning, caused her to break out in hives. Her perfect makeup began to run as she sweated under the hot lights I'd strategically repositioned. Marcus stood at the altar, watching his bride approach, and I saw the exact moment he understood what was happening. Our eyes met across the crowd, and for the first time in 5 years, he smiled at me. Really smiled. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, I do. The crowd gasped. Victoria's face went from blotchy red to sheet white. Victoria, I can't marry you. Not when I know the truth about what you did to Emma, to us, to everyone you've manipulated over the years. Victoria's composure finally cracked completely. You can't do this to me. Not in front of everyone. You did this to yourself, Marcus said firmly. Emma, would you join me? As I walked to the altar, past the chaos of Victoria's family being quietly arrested, past the shocked whispers of high society watching their world crumble, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The sweet taste of perfect revenge, served exactly as it should be, cold, calculated, and absolutely devastating. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office, 3 times the size of my old one. Reading the morning news over my coffee. The headline made me smile. Ashworth family empire crumbles. Federal investigation uncovers decades of financial crimes. Victoria was facing 27 federal charges. Her family's assets were frozen, their reputation destroyed, their social standing obliterated. The woman who'd thought she could manipulate people like chess pieces was now wearing an orange jumpsuit and sharing a cell with someone who definitely wasn't impressed by her pedigree. The best part? The wedding video had gone viral. Not because it was beautiful, but because it captured the exact moment when karma knocked on Victoria's door and served her the bill for years of cruelty. Social media had dubbed it the wedding from hell, and it became a cautionary tale about what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. My business exploded overnight. Turns out, when you can orchestrate the downfall of one of Manhattan's most powerful families using nothing but wedding planning skills and poetic justice, people take notice. I had brides flying in from across the country, all wanting the planner who could handle anything. But the real victory wasn't professional. It was personal. Marcus and I didn't rush back into anything. We'd both learned that love built on desperation doesn't last. Instead, we started over. Coffee dates, long walks, honest conversations about the years we'd lost and the people we'd become. He'd used his inheritance to start a foundation helping first-generation college students, kids like we used to be. I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something beautiful from the ashes of someone else's cruelty. We took it slow, but we took it together. And when he proposed, really proposed, not because his family demanded it or because of business mergers, but because he couldn't imagine his life without me, I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was everything Victoria's wasn't. Small, intimate, filled with people who genuinely loved us. No hidden agendas, no family politics, no billion-dollar contracts. Just 2 people who'd found their way back to each other despite everything the universe had thrown at them. As I walked down the aisle toward Marcus, wearing my grandmother's simple dress and carrying wildflowers we'd picked that morning, I couldn't help but think about irony. I'd spent 5 years planning other people's happy endings, never believing I'd get my own. But sometimes the best stories are the ones where the underdog wins, where love conquers manipulation, and where the girl who was supposed to disappear quietly becomes the architect of her own fairy tale ending. Victoria had wanted to destroy me by forcing me to plan Marcus's wedding. Instead, she'd given me the perfect opportunity to plan my own revenge, and ultimately my own happiness. Sometimes the best revenge is living well and planning the perfect disaster. If this story gave you chills, hit that subscribe button because I've got more shocking true stories coming your way. What would you have done in Emma's position? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, karma always finds a way to RSVP.